Welcome to Shoulder to Shoulder. My name is Bishop Daymond, and I'm here with my brother Bryce, my good friend Matt. It's been a pretty good football season for cross country, as they made sectionals. But for football, it's been pretty rough. So we'll get into football first. They struggled with plays against Loyola, and they've got pretty little production. Bryce, I know you've done some inside analysis on it. Can you tell us about how that game went?
Well, Bishop, that was a rough game against Loyola on Friday. Both the sophomore and the varsity team lost. The only football team that did beat Loyola was the freshman team, so congrats to them. But a little bit of a rough loss for the varsity against Loyola. Lost by multiple touchdowns. It wasn't a close game. Uh, and I don't think we played that horribly as the score suggests. It's just we weren't able to execute and put the ball in the end zone. We had some good drives, but we weren't able to finish them and capitalize off of them. And I feel like that's what really affected us in that game. We had a little rushing production, which made it very predictable for Loyola to stop us. And yeah, I think Jack Elliott really has to get healthy and 100% before playoffs because we're going to need him to really carry us as we go into playoffs.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said, Bryce. But personally, I really, if I want to tell you how I really feel, I don't know what to say. That's a demoralizing loss. 31-7 was the final score. Lost to the Ramblers on a Friday night at Barta Dowling. I think it's games like that that kind of reinforces your love and like spirit for the game, though. That game made me want to um, go out Friday night and support these guys for their round one game in the playoffs. It made me want to see them win state even more. When I sat down with Coach Lynch last week, I asked him, I was like, which team was more motivated heading into the playoffs? And I know I said this last week and I said it on the broadcast and I said it over and over again, but I think it's just such a, kind of impactful answer. He said the team that was tighter, the team that was more motivated, was that team that lost to Loyola last year. Um, it's kind of weird to hear that, right? You lose to your rivals in a really big game by 2 points, and that motivates you even more than beating them. And if anything's going to motivate you, it's losing to that same team by a large number of points. We'll put it that way. It was a blowout, 31-7. It was a blowout. I'll be honest. And the reason I call it a blowout is because not just because of the score, but when we came back from halftime, um, there was really no like feeling of we're still in it. We have a shot.
Yeah.
We only had the ball 2 times in the second half, and we were down by 3 possessions, or excuse me, 4 possessions. At the end of the game, right? It's hard to it's hard to put it in words. It was a bad loss. I think it was expected a little bit. It was in the back of our minds a little bit. But anytime you play a rival like that in such a big game, a blowout, either way, positive or negative, it's always going to be on the table. And I think out of the 4 games we've had in the past 4 seasons, dating back to 2021, because 2021 was 21-19, and then the next year 42-37. The next year 23-21. Those are all one-score games.
All right.
This by far seemed like, it didn't seem that it was that huge battle we've been talking about, like the two Goliaths going head to head. This one seemed a little less enthusiastic. Not right from the get-go, though. I'd say the beginning of the game was really nice.
Yeah.
Quentin Burrell getting those 3 catches on the opening drive. I was like, here we go. Let's go down and score. We got stopped at the 29-yard line, unfortunately. We were forced to turn the ball over on downs. It's hard to watch your team go through that because the three of us, we watch every single game, we watch every single play, and to lose like that to a big rival is tough. I know. It's repetitive like that, where it's like, oh, it's tough. It's hard. It's a bad loss. All you can do is just keep saying things like that because there's not much else to say. So that's all I got for Loyola. Bryce, what about this game on Friday though? I think it's this this moment of we're still in it. We've still got a shot at 3 in a row as far as state championships go. Who do we got? Where, when, and why?
Well, Mount Carmel was seeded 19th in the regional pairings, and we have to travel to Harlem High School in McKesney Park, Illinois, in northern Illinois. And yeah, we're excited to see the Caravan play against Harlem High School. They play in the Northern Illinois Conference with teams like uh, Belvedere South. Uh, yeah, that's what they play on Friday.
Yeah, there's a couple good programs up there.
Yeah.
I'd say it's nothing like Catholic League football, and I don't mean
Right.
this the level of talent or skill. I just mean straight up the way they play football. It's different up there. It's still like there's big hits. Defenses take the lead, but watching film on these guys was interesting because for the past 9 weeks I've been so used to teams that we know, and this happens every year with the playoffs, especially those first 2 rounds, and you're most likely going to be traveling a bit unless you have a home game, which Loyola does have a home game since they won in week 9.
Yeah.
So these are domino effects that they're going to be uh, they're going to have an effect long after this game on Friday is done. These are it had huge implications, but we're past that. We're past that game. We're playing the Huskies from Harlem. They've got a first-year head coach, whole new coaching staff, so they're trying some things out. Last year they went 6-4, and now with the new coaching staff, they're doing pretty good for themselves. Only have 2 losses this season. They went 7-2, so they're doing pretty good for themselves. And conference-wise, they rounded out very well. They're at the top of the rankings. Um, I'm excited to head out there. I'll be going with the team. I believe there's been talks of a stream on NFHS, which is the network for the IHSA. We'll confirm that later. I don't want to say anything too certain right now. However, what is certain is that I, as well as a couple of other people from the media group, will be going out to the game Friday, taking pictures and giving Twitter updates. So if you want to keep updated with the game, you want to see the score, plays, things like that, videos, pictures, go on to the Caravan Football's Twitter account. You can see all that. I'll be on there giving updates. I'm really excited for it. There's something about traveling with a team like that. I've done it for state now the past 2 years. I did it also for basketball. Um, there's something special about going up there, whether it's with the team or with your family or with your friends or something. There's always this big feel of you're going there. You're going there for something. You're going there for a pretty big reason. And I know a round one playoff game it doesn't seem that big, but in terms of what we're coming off of here, this is a rebound game for us, man.
Yeah.
If this is a close game against Harlem, those are some pretty big warning signs. I'm not saying it will be, and from what I've seen so far, I don't think it will be. I hope it's not. I really hope we route the Huskies onto the second round. We're most likely going to be playing St. Charles North. We'll talk about that next week, though, hopefully. So that's all I got for football. I'm really not looking at the specifics yet of who's playing for Harlem. We have a couple names here. I just want to get it out there that this is a rebound game for us. We need to win Friday night, not just to stay alive, but to show that last week was not a fluke or anything. Right? Last week was it was bad. It was bad.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody's going to deny that. So we got to go out and prove ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah.
Next up to soccer. So we lost to Hindale Central in the regional championship. On a game, this was a tough game. Guys are pretty banged up. You lost by 1 point, so it's gonna be tough. But we need to see how these guys recover from this. I know it's always a learning moment for the soccer game to lose because they've been pretty much winning all the games. So they need to learn how to come back from this. But I think it's a good thing that they're getting this experience of losing. See
Yeah.
how they can push through.
Definitely. Yep, definitely, Bishop. I just want to say, sorry to cut you off there, but Saturday morning I was taking the ACT, so unfortunately I couldn't go to the game. But I got out of the test, and about an hour later I got a text from Christos saying, hey, the guys lost. That might have been more devastating than the Loyola game, man, right? Because that Loyola game, that was out of reach pretty early on in the game when they were up 24-7, and we were kind of continuously making plays, like missing tackles or just dropping passes. I was like, yeah, like this might be it for tonight. With soccer, though, it's like you lose in the last couple of minutes there by one goal in a rematch that you lost last year. That's tough.
It's
Like
tough.
that's tough, you know. I felt bad for all those guys, man, because they put in the work this year, right? Those summer workouts went a long way, and they made it here to the regional championship. Which, by the way, in the regional semifinal, they won 8-0. So what I was thinking is like, man, like if you're winning that big, that early on, like we're gonna see success kind of continue. Unfortunately, it didn't. There's nothing you can do. So I know Coach Godinez is fired up about this though, and I hope next year they can see Hinsdale Central in the same exact game at the same exact time in the playoffs and beat him. But that's not for a while. Obviously, right now the guys are just kind of soaking in the loss, and overall the fantastic season they had though. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good way for all those seniors to end, even with that loss. Weren't able to get over Hinsdale Central, but I feel like the way Coach Godinez is building this soccer program, it's only going up from here
Oh
because they've definitely had improvement. There's definitely more buzz around MC soccer, around the community. So I'm very interested to see how they'll come back this season. And like one thing Mr. Godinez has said in class is that you got to prepare, and like those soccer workouts start all the way in the winter. Like
Absolutely. Yeah.
they're really working hard all year to get to this moment. And I think that when we come back next year in the playoffs, we'll be ready and prepared with a new kind of wave of guys ready to compete in the Catholic League and beyond. Yeah.
So cross country made the sectionals, like I said. Um, so really good for them. They've had a lot of guys finishing sub 19. It was pretty interesting to see these guys working together, building out that sweat. Bryce, you're gonna play in the sectionals. Can you give us your take on that?
Yes, I was not able to attend the regionals because I had to attend a funeral, but from what I heard and what I saw in the times that we ran, it was a very successful meet for Mount Carmel cross country. Uh, Definitely succeeding in those regionals. I'm pulling up the times right now, and I believe Gabriel Valerio ran at 18:50. Uh, Christos Demas ran a sub 20. Don Mansilla, uh, TJ Kolke, Nolan Esquivel. Um, Pretty much our entire top seven ran a sub 20. So it's a very successful meet. I feel like we have a lot of depth and a lot of momentum going into sectionals this week.
I'll say this is the only team I'm a fan of that is actually doing okay right now.
Yeah.
Friday night, um, last Friday night, the sophomore football team lost in a kind of a heartbreaker, pretty emotional loss. Not the way you want to go out, but they had a great season overall. We're not going to overlook that. And then, of course, the varsity team with that big loss. And then Saturday was soccer. And then Sunday, I'm like the Bears, man, the Chicago Bears.
Yeah.
Like they're gonna pull out a big win against Jaden Daniels and the Commanders. And it was my little sister's birthday, so we were having cake, and my family was over, and we're all there watching the game. And we score there late, 23 seconds left on the clock, and the Commanders come back and throw a Hail Mary. There's a whole story to that as well. There's a story to every single game we just mentioned. But the Bears lost. I was in shock. Everybody else in my family was in shock. But what I'm not in shock of is how great this cross country team is doing, because I know that heading into this season, the seniors were great leaders. I know they were going to lead the way for you two because I know you were on the team, and the feedback was great about that. Coach Burke and the seniors did a great job. Um, Running sub 20, like that's pretty hard. I mean, overall for cross country, to do it that consistently with all seven of our guys is awesome. That's great. So I'm really excited to see them come out big on Saturday for sectionals, because if they lose, then I don't know who to root for. So that would be the fifth loss I just mentioned? I don't even know at this point. But I think this whole week in general, it's a bit gloomy just because of what we're all coming off of. And if cross country can do well Saturday, not win, not place first or anything, just do well, man. Like just overall come out, have a fun time, but yeah, put some good times on the board. I'll be satisfied. I'll be happy about it. Yeah.
And hockey has a really, really grand game against Brother Rice. It's going to be a really huge rivalry. It's going to be really big for them. We'll see if they can get some stats. I know they've been working out. They've been practicing every week. So it's going to be interesting to see how they fare. Um,
Yeah, the hockey program has been doing a lot of bonding recently. I just know they're trying to get everybody to buy in. And I think for hockey, that's the hardest, not the hardest sport, but one of the hardest sports to do that for high school because there's so many kids that play club. There's so many kids that transfer a lot, to get on a better team. There's kids that move states and countries, and I feel like for some of these guys by their senior year, they've just seen so much and played so much. They're a little exhausted, and they're exhausted not just because of how much they've played, but and what they've experienced, but they haven't been that great over the past couple of years. They've a couple of 1 or 2 win seasons. They've gone on to double that early on, and I think a win against Rice on Thursday night, Halloween night, at Oaklawn Ice Arena, so it's an away game for them. That would kind of solidify them coming together and showing that chemistry, right? You can do all you want. You could go have a team dinner. You could go do something all team related, but it's got to connect when you're on the ice. And if it doesn't, then it's back to the drawing board, working again. Carmel has nothing to lose on Thursday night. They're not this big powerhouse program. I'm not saying necessarily that Rice is, but Rice definitely has had a little bit more consistency over the past few years than Carmel has. If MC can pull out with a big win on Thursday night, that'd prove a lot to a lot of people, I guess. Yeah. So good luck to those guys. I'm gonna do my best to show up on Halloween and support them. Yeah.
and we have chess. I know chess is a really knowledgeable game. Got to get that skill in. Our chess team's going to play against Marist away. So if we get our guys to check out that, it's going to be a really tough one. I know I've never really been good at chess, but these guys are probably like skilled. I know they probably much smarter than these moves. Can you give us any intake, Bryce, on the chess team?
Yeah, to add to what you just said, yeah, chess is a very tough kind of sport to play because it takes quick thinking in a very like high pressure situation. Like I watched their last chess kind of meet, if you want to call it, last week in the incubator room. It was kind of a tense environment. Saw guys like really like thinking tactically on what their next moves were. It was very interesting to watch, more interesting to watch than I thought it would be because if you think about chess, you just think of it as like a mind game and like sometimes it might be like a little bit boring, but like to see those guys like really like putting in the work like to play and get better at chess outside of just like practice and like kind of translating that into real matches is like really interesting to see.
Yeah, I was there too last week in the incubator room with you watching those guys, and it kind of brought back memories of when I did Scholastic Bowl in I think 7th grade. Um, it's intense, like it's intense in a different way than contact sports are, right? I think with football, of course, right now, but then basketball and wrestling and fight night, even if you will, like all these contact sports. Um, the anticipation builds up and the intensity builds up, and then all of a sudden it's kickoff or tip off, or one guy drains a three, one guy lands a punch, one guy pins the other guy to the mat, and it's just very physical. It builds up for a while. With chess though, like you and I were in that room, and it wasn't calm for 1 second for any of these guys. For I think they got 20 minutes to play their game, 20 minutes on their clock, and obviously they make their move, and then they flick the clock, and it goes to the other person. That's how it works. uh, they were like locked in. They did not look away from their pieces or their board. They didn't look up. They didn't look down. They didn't look the other person in the eye. They didn't. They were locked in the entire time. And Christos and I did a little coverage, if you will. We took a little video with some mics, so that was fun. We kind of got to announce chess in a way. They ended up losing to the Latin high school, but you know what? I know these guys have a lot ahead of them. Seeing as the big run they made last year regarding state, I think this year they've got a shot. So I'm excited to see, and if they can beat Marist today, that'd be a nice bonus. They'd be one step further to their goal, which is performing better than they did last year.
Yeah, Matt, I agree because it's really mental games. So it can also be frustrating when you're losing. Your time clock's down. They're always like slapping the table. Because I saw one match. I was helping out a community event. It was pretty frustrating to watch. So yeah, chess is a really tough game. But moving on to bowling, it will start and commence this week. Played at Castaway Bowl. Bowling is really a fun, um, virtuous sport. Can you give us any intake on that, Matt?
Yeah, absolutely. Last year the bowling team was kind of senior heavy, if I remember. So I think this is going to be kind of a new lineup this year. I know. I know a couple freshmen that were interested. I met them last year, and I know that they said they were big bowlers. And I was like, you know what? We don't have any of those. Besides those seniors. So I think they're getting young guys in. And yeah, they play at Castaway Bowl, like you mentioned. They'll be heading out there a whole lot more throughout the next couple of months. I think as the weeks go on, we'll let the fans know. We'll let you guys know who they're playing, when they're playing, scores and things like that. But as of right now, they just started this week. They're getting the season rolling. Yeah.
So with that, we'll conclude. So yeah, it's been pretty interesting fall sports. Some fall sports are starting to end sadly. We had some pretty tough losses, but some are good. Some have been really good fall sports for some teams, like cross country. These starts are still starting to open. So yeah, we'll see what happens in the next few weeks. And with that, we'll leave off. Thanks for tuning in.